Welcome back, everybody, to We Are TPM with myself, Kyle Teixeira, sitting next to John Teixeira on this lovely morning. We would like to speak with you if you would like to speak with us. You can give us a call at 817-818-9039 or shoot us an email at showmethemoney@wearetpm.com if you have anything of interest that you hear on this podcast or otherwise. And this week, we are going to discuss dealing with storm damages. Why, John? Why?
Because we do it a lot, at least here in Texas, all throughout the Midwest and the South. I mean, spring and fall is storm season, right? And for our primary home residences and our investment properties, it happens to almost everyone at some point. So how do you deal with it? What do you deal with if you're somebody who hasn't done this before? Sometimes it can seem like an overwhelming process. So let's make it a little simpler.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you just deal with them, right? And then it's done.
When the roof blows away, you're just like, I'm sorry, Mr. Tenant, you no longer have a roof.
Yeah. The point is, this podcast is over tenants dealing with storm damages. They just have to deal with it, right? No, just kidding. This is about how the landlord or homeowner should handle the process, kind of. So the one that's common here in Texas that we deal with often is hail and wind damage, which can be significant. Like quite recently, there's been in the immediate DFW area quite a few hailstorms with golf ball. What are grapefruit is what it goes up to after that?
Golf ball sized hail.
Yeah, grapefruit.
No, it goes. I think it goes to softball after that. Baseball, softball. Hail. Grapefruit would be insane, wouldn't it? I saw a TikTok video of, not to get sidetracked, of somebody taking a picture from inside their house during a hailstorm, and hail was blowing through the windows, and it had a funny little caption on there. They were showing a picture of the kitchen window, and just hail is blowing in right through the window, and it says "Rest in peace, dish soap." Because it's just blowing up everything on the. It was hilarious. It was funny.
Yeah, it can do some damage. Actually, I've seen grapefruit-sized hail in the most unsuspecting place. Was when I was in Orange Beach, when the Orange Beach properties got hit.
That's right.
I didn't think the beach coastline could get hit with hail like that.
It's the South, and there's humidity.
Who knows what could happen? Tornado on the beach, right?
Yeah, it happens.
So the hailstorms, like this generally leads to an insurance claim. And I say generally because wind and storm damage can lead to roof damage. It can lead to shingles missing, or damage to the roof from the hail, commonly fences blown down, which a lot of people always jump to insurance. Well, is insurance going to cover that? I guess the first question is always, should you use insurance to deal with storm damages?
So that's a big question. So you really have to analyze your insurance. And maybe now, before you have storm damage, is a good time to think about this and adjust what you're doing with your insurance. But it depends on your deductible, right? Nowadays, insurance companies are running scared, and they're increasing their deductibles. We used to get deductibles at 1%, right? 1% of the replacement value. And so that was doable. Now it's really hard, if not impossible, to get 1%. So now they're mostly 2%. I've even heard of 3% deductibles. So it really depends on the amount of damage versus your deductible, right?
And I've been seeing quite in recent years, like, with those increases, I've been seeing separate deductibles for for storm damage, for wind and hail. You have a wind and hail deductible, and then you have an all perils deductible.
I've heard of that as well. Sometimes there's like a flat rate, like you said, like a $2,000 deductible for wind and hail because it's so common, right? Mm-hmm. And so I've seen that too.
Well, and that's what you have to consider is what a deductible is how much of that you're supposed to put out of pocket. So say you have a $5,000 deductible and submit an insurance claim for $2,500 worth of work. Well, you submitted an insurance claim for absolutely no reason. You're going to, other than now having a claim, which you don't want to tell insurance company, you don't want to put claims in that are unnecessary, because that $5,000 deductible is higher than the actual cost of the repairs. They're not gonna pay for any of it. So
I think people would be surprised to find out what insurance companies will cover and pay for on a
what
hail,
their policy does cover. Yes.
On a hail and wind policy. So let's go through some of those things. The most obvious is the roof, right? But they'll also pay for the accessories on the roof jacks, right? Satellite dishes, anything you've got attached to the roof, they'll pay for. They'll pay for gutters that are dinged up. I have no idea why. I don't think there's anything wrong with a functional gutter that has a dent in it myself, but they pay for it. Those windows, the vinyl windows that have the vinyl trim. Right, got it. Yeah. Yes. The vinyl trim around the windows often gets broken in hail. They'll pay for that trim. Fences, even fences that just have dings on the stain, to get it restained if that's all it costs. Your shed. People don't think about that. Your shed, the roof on your shed, right? The siding on your shed, the siding on your home, like all of these things. You just think, oh, I had had a hailstorm, so I need to call the insurance for the roof. But there's a lot of other things that go with that claim.
Well, and there's some people are like, well, I'll do it later or whatever. There's a statute of limitations on it too. It depends on the storm. And
I'll tell you this from experience, because yes, there may be a legal statute of limitations, but I'll tell you this from many years of experience of doing this. What I know is that right after a big storm, if you claim it within 2 to 3 months of a big storm, your claim process will go so much easier than if you wait a year and say, hey, back in May a year ago, we had this storm. Well, you know who they're sending? They're sending their in-house adjusters that don't want to pay anything is who they're sending a year later. But right after a storm, they send an army of contracted adjusters that are a lot more, let's just say, liberal about the claim, because they're going from house to house to house and trying to solve a problem for the insurance company, a big problem all at one time. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So they're not going to give you as much hassle about it right after the storm. If you decide to wait and don't do it, it'll be harder. That's been my experience over the years, and happens every time.
Same thing. So, but what you didn't mention there, and what always surprises people, is the fence itself. So, like I mentioned earlier, is commonly fences get blown down by the wind, or they get blown down in the windstorm. Say 100-mile-an-hour winds blows down your fence line. Replacing that fence line is expensive. Some people might want to use insurance. Most insurance policies, at least here and what we've experienced, do not cover the fence falling down in a windstorm. It's not even a covered peril that they will consider. In most cases, I mean, it's still insurance. You can write policies for anything, but the standard policies don't cover it. But also, deductible-wise, you generally will be, probably not clearing that deductible just.
So that's not universally true though. Yeah. So look at your policy and know what it covers, because I've seen lots of claims that include the fence.
Yeah. Again, you can add and get a premium for coverage on anything, right? But standardly, if you don't ask for it, you're most likely not going to get it.
And you know what? These are good questions for your insurance guy. There is so much to think about with insurance. Sometimes it gets overwhelming and we forget to ask questions like this. We're like, oh, how much does it cost me per month? What's my, you kind of stick with the high level numbers on it. But maybe a follow-up question to your insurance guy is, what happens if I have hail damage? Because what is covered? Because that's, the reality is it's common, and it's going to happen to you most likely. If you own that home longer than 5 to 10 years, you're going to have a hailstorm. At least where we live.
At least here in Texas, in DFW. I mean, I've of the two homes, I've had 2 hailstorms hit both the houses I've lived in. Yeah. So it's I don't know if that's just bad luck for me, but it's it's pretty common. So, and then recently we saw an entire city where we manage houses get demolished by golf ball size hail. So it's always there's always a process, and you should go through it. You should take those steps. But hail and wind aren't the only storms that you can have, right? What else can you get?
Well, before we move on, and we're talking about wind and hail, and the biggest contractor that you're going to use there is roofing contractors. Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
Because we talked about how right after a storm, an army of adjusters comes in to help the insurance companies mitigate those claims. But you know what other armies come in?
Followed by an army of roofers.
Armies of roofers, yes. There is so much profit and money to be made in replacing roofs on insurance claims from roofers. They are a dime a dozen in your city. But guess what? When there's a good hailstorm, they come from all surrounding cities and states, and they come in like an army, and they're calling you constantly. They're knocking on your door. If you've had hail, they know it, and they're there like the next day, and they're there for like the next 2 months, just hounding you and soliciting and trying to get you to let them inspect your roof.
Well, they get the same maps that the insurance companies get of like, this is the area that got hit by hail, because they have that data, and they, it's not a subjective thing like, my neighbor didn't get hit or whatever.
They are storm chasers.
Yeah, exactly.
So here's my recommendation. You have roofers that are reputable in your city. If you're getting a bunch of phone calls, then that probably means your area got hit whether you know it or not. And maybe you do need a roof inspection. But don't allow that guy that knocked on your door or call you to come inspect your roof, because you don't know who he is, where he's from. He doesn't care about you. He's trying to get as many roofs as possible. I don't care how nice he is. I don't care how nice the cute 29-year-old that knocks on your door is. That doesn't matter to me. What matters is who is going to be there for you to warranty that work when it's all said and done. Who's going to do a good job? Who's going to care about not ruining your pool equipment or getting nails in your pool, or taking a magnet and picking up all the nails out of your flower beds? And who's going to care about that? The guy who has to look you face and face in the grocery store. That's the guy that's going to care about that. The guy who lives in Oklahoma that came down to chase the storm with his crew for a month, he doesn't care about that. He just is going to collect as much of that insurance money as possible, right?
We're preaching now. Okay, I see. I like it.
Yeah,
He's giving the warnings and the disclosures.
Right. The phone calls tell you there's a problem, probably a legitimate problem, but do not.
Well, and you left out of one of the biggest pieces of the process. You need someone trustworthy, or you need someone there to meet the insurance adjuster. These parties all have to combine, right? Somebody needs to be there to make sure the adjuster properly does their job. Like, this roof, this is fine. Well, what about those gutters? What about those windows? Like the trim on the windows, it's completely destroyed. All this stuff, like, I didn't see that. Like, they can't get away with that if a contractor's there pointing it out. So
a good roofer will go up on a roof and circle all the hail hits and make notes on the roof with chalk, so that when the adjuster gets there, he already knows what he's looking for. The work's already done for him, and he'll stand there and use his expertise to help the adjuster decide what's appropriate for the claim.
Well, there's also multiple. It's not just roofs. Damaged roofs lead to water damage, lead to leaks, right? So you want to make sure you get an idea of what the full scope of any storm damage might be, because that could also play into your decision, right? If you have sheetrock repairs or water that flooded, if you have a damaged roof, have it checked from the inside too, because leaks can be hidden for a while.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about roofs for a moment. Can I play roof expert for a moment?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so
there's no such thing as a roofing license anyway. So if anyone tells you there is, they're lying to you. So go ahead, expert.
So look, if you have those granules from your roof laying around in your gutters or around your flower bed, then you know 100% that you've been hit pretty good by a hailstorm, right? That's a good sign from the ground, without getting up on your roof, to see that, man, I got little granules from my roof all over the place. Okay, that only happens basically from a hailstorm. Now, wind
little
doesn't.
Sand rock-looking things that are on the roof.
Little black,
on a composite
little
roof.
Black. Yep. Now, why does that matter? Because I used to, before I realized what those granules were and what they did, I used to think, well, the roof is still up there shedding water, and that's what it's made to do, right? So as long as the water hits the roof and sheds away from the house and is not coming in my house, we're good. Why do I need to replace the roof? But there's actually a good reason, and that is the granules that get knocked off of the roof they're there and meant to protect that shingle. That's the reason why they're there. They protect it from the sun. and from deteriorating. And when the granule goes away, now the shingle is exposed to the sun and it's able to quickly dry out and deteriorate. And when that happens, that's when water is able to seep in and get into your home. So it is important when you see those granules.
Which is extremely hard to track down when it's done that way too.
Yes. So it is important. It may not seem important, but those granules are a sign that a loss of granules is a sign that you need a new roof. And if it's on the ground, then that means it's probably better to do it through a claim, an insurance claim.
Yeah. I mean, the roof usually, pretty much every time fulfills the cost consideration of it doesn't clear that deductible. It usually does. But the insurance company will also tell you that too. I mean, if you're on the fence, then submit it and see what happens, right? Because if they tell you you're not past your deductible, they'll probably close the claim or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I mean, what they'll do is they'll basically, let's just use some numbers. Can we use some numbers, an example of a roof claim? So let's say they come in and they say your claim is $20,000 and your deductible is $4,000. They will usually take a 10% depreciation of that, so $16,000 left. So they'll usually take a 10% appreciation, so they'll hold back $2,000, right, to make sure you actually get the work done. And so now we have, what, $14,000 left? Did I do that math right? I think I did. So now they'll send you a check for $14,000. Sometimes it even has you and your lien holder on it, right? So you have to send it into, your mortgage company to get them to actually sign it sometimes. But that's just another step. It's not that big a deal. So now you got $14,000 to pay your roofer with, right? Because I subtracted your deductible. And then when the work is done, you submit that completed invoice or inspection to the insurance company, depending on what they're requiring. And then they send you that other depreciation amount of $2,000. Mm-hmm. That's how that works.
So you get it fully recovered.
Yep.
Yeah. Then they take the deductible out.
Yeah, it's kind of taken out of the first check, but yes, it's taken out of the entire equation. Yes.
So, and this is, we're specifically talking about single family right now, because there's if you get storm damage from in a condo, then it's dealt with completely differently, right? You have an added party here. Now you have a condo association that facilitates these claims for possibly the roof, but not any damage to the inside of your unit.
Well, ideally,
depending on those.
Unless something's come into your unit, ideally, you shouldn't have to do anything in that instance, right?
Yeah.
The condo complex should be taking care of it with their insurance, because their insurance covers all the exterior. So unless something comes in and there's wind damage, maybe a window blows out and now the water comes in, now you've got to call your insurance for that. But the rest of it is on the homeowners association that manages the insurance policy for the exterior.
There could be more extreme ones, right? Have we ever, I guess you could use insurance if your house gets struck by lightning and all your wires burn up. Haven't had that one happen yet.
Absolutely. Fires.
Yeah.
Right. We've had kitchen fires. That's a big one. That happens, especially with investment properties. Sometimes you can't assume that tenants know how to properly dispose of grease or how to cook something properly, or sometimes people just get busy, walk away. A kid starts screaming, they walk away from a grease fire that they don't even realize that they've almost started, and now the kitchen's burning up, right? So it can happen to anybody.
Some people don't know metal can't go in microwaves, don't know that styrofoam can't go in microwaves.
Some people don't know how to put out a grease fire, and sometimes even water will make it even worse, right? That's why they give you those powders and fire extinguishers with foam, and sometimes they tell you just throw a blanket over it, right? Because sometimes those grease fires are expand with water.
Yeah, I thought you were just supposed to pour gasoline on it. No?
That would be bad.
I thought that
would be a really bad move.
Because it's already on fire, it's counteractive. I'm just going to do not take that advice.
Do not do that. Please do not use gasoline. I don't think we even need to say
If
that.
you got gasoline sitting on hand in your kitchen, then
that's a problem.
You probably have an issue with that. Yeah. You should probably just replace that with a fire extinguisher. Which
is another good point, right? You should have a fire extinguisher handy. We mount ours underneath kitchen sinks in pantries, somewhere close by to the kitchen is where we mount our fire extinguishers on all of our properties. And so something else to think about. We're getting away from storm damages, though. What other storms we could do? Lightning.
Tornadoes turn into wind damage, though.
Tornadoes.
But, that can have...
How about flood? Flood is a good conversation, because if you don't understand what flood insurance you have, right, you could be in for a big surprise to find out that you aren't insured on some of them will only do acts of God, right? So if an act of God creates a flood, then you're fine, you're covered. But if your pipe breaks upstairs and floods your whole downstairs and ruins your wood floors, some policies won't cover that.
Ooh, the freeze argument. That was a fun one. That was the freeze argument. Is a frozen pipe an act of God? Debatable, according to the insurance company.
It is an act of God unless there's negligence. So I'll give you an example. We had one. This was on a New Year's Eve, right? We had this house on the market, and the homeowner, it was a rental, and the homeowner decided, without telling us, to have one of their family members stay there for the weekend, or for however long. I don't know. We didn't even know they were staying there. They told them, you can go stay there, while it was on the market. So apparently they stayed there and decided to go to a different city for New Year's celebration. And when they left, they turned everything off. They turned the heater off and everything. So now the house is stone cold, and we have a major freeze.
Yeah.
And the hot water heater upstairs in the attic, guess what happens? It expands, all the pipes expand, and they burst. And the insurance company said, because you didn't have the heater on, that was negligence, and we're not paying for it. And they did not pay for it. There was like $40,000 damage in this house. There was beautiful wood floors, huge, like 4,500 square foot home. God, it was a mess. It was a mess.
Which is crazy, because had they had the heater on, probably still would have happened, given the situation. But that's the point. Negligence can offset those things. So, but they also can. When the freezes did happen, the big freeze last year, we had a lot of pushback from insurance. Some things got covered, some didn't, solely because they were saying that freeze damage wasn't a covered peril, while water damage was. And it was a very weird description. And to your point, when ERCOT shut off the power grids and people couldn't use their heaters, well, the insurance companies then started saying that this wasn't that it was negligence, that you didn't turn your... It's a man-made problem. That it was a man-made problem, and that because it's not an act of God that you lost electricity, it's an act of, that you were supposed to turn your water off and not have water in your pipes because you couldn't use your heater, right? It was just this huge chain of essentially reasons not to cover it, because I guess acts of God are subjective. But I also guess insurance companies are religious.
That's what I was just thinking about. That's funny that you said that. I was just thinking to myself, is do you think there's any people that don't believe in God that work for insurance companies, but yet they probably use that term all the time?
What is they going to use? An act of non-humans? Okay, well, if a drone did it or if a computer did it, and then they're like,
Mother Nature. I'm surprised I'm surprised they haven't changed it to something like that. Acts of Mother Nature.
Because then they can't blame.
Let's not give them any ideas.
Because water is part of nature. So if it was an act of the water busting and then the water flooded my house, now it's an act of nature. So see, they're in a pickle there.
Let's not point this out to them.
No?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's been addressed. I'll have to look this up now.
Too much change already in our world. Let's leave God alone.
Especially the insurance companies. They need Jesus.
All right. I don't know if we've been helpful or not, Kyle, but I mean, I think we have this. It's not that arduous of a process. If you have some storm damage, I mean, by all means, you know what? Here's the thing. People freak out and think, oh, I don't want to put a claim in. It's not going to do anything to your insurance policy. Make the claim. You still have the opportunity after they present to you what they're willing to do to cancel it, right? Like, that's not enough money. It's not worth it. You didn't find enough damages. You know what? Never mind. And don't follow through with it. It's fine. It's not the end of the world to just try.
Another common thing is people, I'm not an insurance agent, so take this, talk to your insurance agent about it or whatever, but the hailstorm will affect your premiums regardless of whether you submit a claim or not. So
right.
The
premiums
insurance
in
company,
general for that area.
In general, like for that area, like your house is going to be considered higher risk of a hailstorm now, and premiums are likely going to go up just because that area got hit by a hailstorm. Whether it doesn't matter how many claims were in that area or any of that, it's based on likelihoods, right? So it just became more likely. So what the roofers will tell you is, your premium is going to be affected whether you do this or not, so you should do this, right? It's somewhat true. Talk to your insurance agent.
Let's see, I've had my current home, I've been in for 19 years, and I have the third roof on it. All paid for by
and you've avoided
insurance.
By the skin of your teeth, you've avoided quite a few hailstorms that I know have hit just north and just south of you. So
we recently had one. I'm considering actually doing another claim on it also because I've found a whole bunch of granules in my gutter and I didn't realize I got hit that hard. So I'm like, we're talking about this and I'm actually living it right now.
Yeah. So I tried to tell the insurance company the hail hurt the water in my pool, and for the last insurance claim, and it almost worked. I'm like, you got to rebalance the chemicals and everything. They're like, well, we'll look and see if that's a covered barrel.
The frozen water really messed up.
Frozen water, man. They were throwing darts into the pool. So.
Oh my goodness.
No, but they did cover the stain on the fence. So
yes, they did.
So if you guys have any questions about getting somebody to help you deal with storm damages, we are happy to discuss. And you can give us a call, 817-818-9039. Shoot us an email at showmethemoney at wearetpm.com. And John and Kyle are out.
Are we supposed to fly away?
Fly.
Let's try it again.